Good evening, folks. Welcome to Wine Wednesdays. As promised, we are trying to do our recordings on a weekly basis, and that way we can bring you information that has to do with life as an expat, okay? Last week's Wine Wednesday was lots of fun. We had Omar Best with us, and he's a returning guest this week because we're going to be talking about a topic that's sort of a continuation of the topic that we got into last week. So go on and get your wine, or in Omar's case, a beer, and let's get started. Hello, Omar. How are you?
Hey, folks. Hey, Maria. Glad that I can join again. Let me see. Yeah, it was fun last week. So
I was laughing going back, looking at the recording.
yeah, hopefully, we're not developing any enemies. Like, these are just I want people to basically just understand that we're just talking from experience. I've been living overseas since 2011. And so don't take none of this stuff personal. Just take it as us sharing our personal experiences to put you in a better position to adapt to your new life overseas. So I like to say that because I know some of the stuff that we talk about can be a little edgy, and it can be non-PC, but it is what it is. So
Yeah, and oh, and by the way, you get to see us in our, our house clothes, our Sunday garb, and my crazy hairdo. Very different from when we're doing, our regular videos where you're all suited up and dressed up and your hair all combed. This is what you get when, I'm home, okay? But yeah, that's what this is about, folks. This is about, first of all, I don't want to say advice. I don't like the word advice, not that there's anything wrong with that, but advice gives the impression that we figured out the solution to everybody's situation, and that doesn't exist. That concept is non-existent. No one solution works for everyone because we're all different. We're as we discussed in last week's Wine Wednesdays, we're all different. So different strokes for different folks. What we give you is food for thought, things that you can consider, before making your decision, before entering into a situation. We're giving you food for thought. Let's just say that, okay? And that way the transition to live here becomes easier, or to deal with the culture, because, not everyone who invests in the DR or has status in the DR is intending to live here, but you still, to a certain degree, have to deal with the culture if you are investing here, if you're getting legal status here. So either way, these are just ways to help you climatize, have like a smoother transition into the Dominican culture. So let's get down to it, okay? This week's video, and we were trying to remember, Omar, we were trying to kick around, coming up with titles. And so we had several selections. One of them is, be careful of creating your own monsters. There are situations, folks, that are caused not by the country, but by our own tendencies. We all have personality traits that can open the door to situations wherever we go that can turn out to be not so favorable. In fact, they could become quite a headache. Now, what are we talking about? What are some examples of tendencies that could come back to bite you? Okay, well, we were talking about the savior complex. The savior complex has two facets. We're going to start talking first about the need to be a social savior or a social worker. Now, the Dominican Republic, as you well know, and this channel is all about, giving it to you straight. Yes, it's, has its, paradise facets. It's a beautiful island. Even when you're in the urban areas of the country, where there's raw nature, it's just beautiful. It's quite breathtaking. And the country's economy, although it is steadily rising and one of the fastest rising economies in Latin America, and it's come a long way as far as infrastructure, socially, it is still a country that's far behind a country like, say, the US. So you're going to come here, and depending on where you live in the country, you're going to see people in dire straits like you've never seen them before, especially if you go to a small town. In small towns, you see that more, poverty. So you come and settle into a small town, and obviously, it's an admirable thing to want to, do for your fellow man and help your neighbor. But if you're not careful, that can start to snowball, and it could start to become not an asset of your personality, but a problem that you're contending with. What do we mean by that? Well, if you're known as the generous foreigner, in town, it's going to become frequent for people to start sharing their stories with you, coming to you for help. And even though, we're not discouraging people from doing that, it's a noble thing to do. And of course, we all strive to do what we can. You have to make sure that you place limits. And it reminds me of an interview that Oprah Winfrey had. And she started talking about what started happening once she started making a lot of money. Now you had all charities coming out of the woodworks, asking for donations. And in the beginning, she felt it, a social obligation. She started helping everybody out. She started, just giving money left and right. And at some point, she said, I learned the power of the word no. It just started to take me over. It just started to become too much. So I decided that I was going to choose what charities to help and how I wanted to help. So I started to say no. And, that was so interesting, because when people have and they say no to someone who's asking in need, it just seems like the wrong thing to do. But if you don't put the brakes on trying to save the world, you're going to start to become boggled down. And I've heard foreigners say this. They complained about the fact that everybody gives a sob story. Yeah, but you've become a magnet for that. You have inadvertently invited people to approach you with their stories because they know that you cannot say no. So you have to come with the mindset like Oprah. You will help, but you will select who, how, and where, and how much. Did you want to go ahead, Omar?
Yeah, I think that I would advise that if you're going to give and donate to different causes, I would say work with the organization. I wouldn't get into the habit of basically like directly helping individuals or even families. Not to say that, I know some people adopt families to help, but I would say that if you're gonna give, I would go to find a local charity that you can either donate your financial resources to, or your time, or goods to help people. I think that that's the cleanest way to do it, because once you get into the habit of trying to help everybody, and there comes a situation where you're in having financial hardships, or maybe funds are just tight at this moment, you can't give, and all of a sudden the people that you were giving to before are with no problem, and you say no, that may become a problem.
Yeah.
So I would definitely watch that, and understand that you do need to have limits, because as they say on the airplane, you need to make sure that you put your oxygen mask on first, so you don't want to go into the poorhouse
Good
trying
point.
to save the
Good
world,
point.
because when it's time for you to, like if you're in a situation, what's going to happen when you're all out of funds to give, so just be careful with that.
And you bring up an interesting point that I think we should develop. Listen, when you get people used to resolving, they expect it. It's an expected thing. And depending on the scenario, they take it for granted. And I want to get into the other side of the savior complex. Listen, when you are starting out a relationship, everybody wants to cause a good impression. Everybody wants to transmit to their to their significant other that you are a dependable person. You're a person they can count on when the chips are down. So this leads people, especially when the advantage, like when you have a foreigner dating a local, of course, the foreigner usually 9 out of 10 is the person with the most means. So they will early on in the relationship take on the role as the savior. Anything that comes up, any situation, I'm gonna take care of this for you. I'm going to resolve it. Problem with that is that people get used to the good stuff real fast. And then the day that you cannot, whether your circumstance change or whether you feel like you need to take a step back, the day that you don't, do as you've always done and aid them in a time of need, they're going to interpret that as you're changing. They're going to take that to mean that something's wrong with the relationship. And they're going.
And it could just be a case that that person is, they're only with you for your financial resources or your means. That's two things that you could take from that.
And let's just assume, because remember, we're talking here about creating a monster. So the situation was not there. The person was not looking to take advantage of you, but you got them used to it. Once you get people used to something, it is human nature to now expect it and take it for granted. And listen, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and be honest with you, because the YouTube subscribers are my family. So I don't mind admitting to you the mistakes I've made. And I'm about to tell you all something that I've never told anybody else. My ex-husband, and I make reference to my ex-husband not because I'm not over him, but because it was a big part of my life. And that divorce was a transition that just taught me so many lessons and helped me to grow and change so much. So every time I want to talk about my personal evolution, I automatically gravitate toward that experience. So my ex-husband is, of course, he was a control freak. So that's why he wanted to handle everything himself. But he was a person who just took care of everything. From the most menial thing to the biggest things. He just handled everything. And I didn't realize to what degree he took care of things until we were separated and divorced. And now it fell upon me to take care of all that stuff. And I was like, man, and you know what I realized? I took it for granted. Of course, you say thank you when someone does something for you. But I think that in retrospect, I could have been more appreciative. You know, I could have thought about him a little bit more. You know, it was just a given that he was going to do it. I wouldn't even think about it. But he got me used to that. He just wanted to handle everything himself. In fact, it got to the point in the beginning of our relationship that when I wanted to do things, he was like, no, I'll take care of it. And he got me used to that. But the point is that grows tiresome. Even if your circumstance, your financial circumstance doesn't change, you know, you may change. You may find it taxing emotionally to be carrying the other person's load, because I got news for you. The novelty of a relationship, that changes and gives way to routine. So all of a sudden, that need you feel to place them in a bubble and protect them from everything, that's going to fade. And then what? You know? So you've gotten this person used to this already. Now they expect it. You created that monster. And I got news for you. Even if later on you try to explain to this person that you just can't do as much anymore, that you really feel like you need to take a step back and you know, give yourself some breathing room, they're still not going to get it. Because ingrained in their mind is how it all got started, how it's been working up until now. And it's been working great for them, so why change it? You know? So I have to, another thing, like I said, not an advice, but food for thought. The beginning of a relationship is when tendencies tend to form. And those tendencies last. It's difficult to undo what is done at the beginning. That's when you're laying the groundwork for how the relationship is going to work. Listen, this person survived way before you showed up in their life. And long after you're gone, they're going to keep surviving. So what might you want to do in the beginning? Give moral support. Don't feel the need right off to handle all of the matters that affect them and resolve their financial issues, which is another thing. Omar mentioned a very interesting point, okay? There are red flags, you know. The beginning of a relationship when everybody's trying to give the best impression is not the time to be talking about financial issues and problems and my mom and the family and all this other stuff. Of course, getting to know a person involves getting to know all about them and their family. But if they start bringing issues they expect you to resolve, ding, 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 that alarm is going off, okay? So make sure that you catch that. Make sure you catch it, okay? So when it comes down, and then the other thing, listen, lopsided relationships, they don't last. They do not last. When everything, the load of the relationship is being carried by one side, there's going to come a point where it's going to become too heavy. And instead of you feeling like, oh, now this person knows how I feel about them, and you know, like that whole feeling in the beginning, you want to impress them. Now you start to resent them, especially because the same thing that happened to me could be happening to you. I took what my husband did for granted, my ex-husband. So you're not helping them, because I got to tell you, after my ex-husband was no longer with me, I had a hard time doing all that he did. It was, I mean, 12 years of having everything handled for me. I'm not ashamed to say it, folks. This is real TV. So I'm telling you right now, it was hard. So in a sense, my ex-husband crippled me, and it took a long time for me to step up and handle the things that he would do for me. So that's the other thing. That savior complex cripples people. You save them in the moment, but you're not really solving anything long term. It's like that old saying, give a man a fish, they'll eat for a day, teach them how to fish, and they'll eat for a lifetime.
Right. I think that like from my perspective, because like, for instance, in my relationship here in Colombia, like my girlfriend or my current girlfriend, like I'm used to a certain lifestyle standard, and she may be accustomed to a certain lifestyle standard. So by default, when you're in a relationship and you meet someone who may not be on the, have the financial means or come from a different walk of life or different environment, you're going to automatically, because I'm not living in no barrio. so that's out. So so if I don't have to live in a barrio, that's out. So she's gonna be in a situation where she's living a little bit better or somewhat better than what she's used to. And like, my girl is not poor, but she's not, she wouldn't be classified as upper middle class or middle class in her income. Right. She would be working class or whatever. So, but I do agree that while she's going to see a different standard, or he is going to see a different standard of living, I think to Maria's point, like, I just feel like you can't just totally lead with your wallet. Like, you can't totally lead with the money. And like what Maria is saying, in terms of someone immediately coming, having all of these different problems in their life, all of these different family problems, and you're supposed to solve them, like, and you guys just have met, y'all are a month in, and all of this stuff is coming at you, and she expects you to take care of all of that. No. That's a red flag. And also, there was a situation with my girlfriend, and I want to add this particularly for the guys, because I mean, the fact of the matter is, in these countries, as much as Maria says don't do it, or she talks about it, I think that we are going to kind of because the way that we want to live, we are going to kind of like take a majority part of the financial role or whatever. But I will say that in my situation, I had a situation where I did come up and have some financial situations where I was like, hey, we got to shut down all operations. We can't be going out to dinner. We can't be going out for a few weeks. Yeah, we got to cook in-house. So I'm telling her all of this stuff. And what happened was, she actually got like a second gig working at like a little boutique, like working part-time. And she actually turned around and started, helping me out. Because I told her, I say, hey, we gotta, because at first she thought I was playing or trying, or as she would say, I'm trying, like, to Maria's point, when you when you legitimately, or you may legitimately have a situation, they may take it as, oh, you're changing, And I think initially she thought that I was trying to like test her. That's initially what she thought. And she thought that I was like testing her by saying that, hey, right now, think shit is tight. But long story short, she ended up helping me out. She was helping me out, giving me extra money from her part-time gig to help me out. And like, you're not gonna find like that made me feel so good at that time, because I'm like, wow, because I wasn't expecting that at all, because I'm of the, I've been living overseas so long and I'm so used to the BS that even though I've been in this relationship for a while now, I still am cognizant that some BS may come up, or them red flags may still come up. So it was like, while it wasn't necessarily an intentional test, it was a test of our relationship. And it also showed me what would happen because every relationship is going to go through this, where either someone is having some hardship, either your woman or your man is going to have hardships, and it's going to be the woman or whoever at that time, it's going to be up to them to like provide that moral support and financial support if need be. So, and if your significant other is not willing to sacrifice for you during that time of need, then that's a problem, So, because that she could have, and what a lot of folks do is once they feel like the gravy train or that this guy doesn't have what they're looking for, they'll leave. You'll find out real quick. So
for what Omar has said, by the way, his girl's a keeper. You find somebody like that, hold on to them. I can't stress that enough. But so what Omar says is important, because maybe during the relationship that you currently have, you don't fall upon hard financial times. So how do you know that if it comes down to it, you can count on this person to work shoulder to shoulder with you to get through the tough times? How do you know they're not going to bail? Well, the answer is you're not going to know, but you will have a clue if you're mindful about not making this relationship about money and about resolving all of their issues. You can give them moral support. You can help them out, in a way that doesn't involve you that much in the beginning, guys. Because as a relationship evolves, you're dating for a long time, you're looking to get married, that's different. That right now you're entering into a partnership, so it is understood that, that there's going to be help, that there's going to be, financial help and otherwise. So that's different. I'm talking about tendencies that are formed in the beginning. So don't create that monster, because there are times when it is not the culture of the country, it's how you handle yourself. And let me just tell you, sometimes men just want to show they can do it. I'm a man. I had this one dude, he's Dominican. I've known him for a long time. Living in the States, he was like, I'm going to send you a plane ticket to come see me. Who told you I need you to buy me a plane ticket? It's like, he's all about, I'm going to show you, So men have that tendency. They want to show that they're protectors, that, they can take care of a woman. Careful with that. Got to be careful. Okay.
Yeah, and I will say, just be careful of who you're trying to take care of. Like yep. I believe, I just, I kind of straight, because I am that, I'm not going to say that I am that guy, but I want to lead my household. I want to lead my relationship, you know. So I am sort of that guy, and I just feel like the issue is the women, and I'm speaking from a guy's perspective. The women that these guys are doing this for are not the women that they should be doing it for. They're for the streets, as they say. So
they're gonna shut this channel.
So like,
see, I didn't want. I'm trying.
Like,
I'm trying
like
to.
Like I said, and I kind of mentioned this in the last podcast. Like, I don't have no problem providing or being the you know, the breadwinner, to so to speak. But the thing is that you just cannot, like you said, there's some women that's gonna appreciate that and contribute, and then there's other women that's gonna feel like, you know, that you know, that's what you're supposed to do, and you know, they're not going to show that appreciation to you. So I just, that's the thing. It's just, I feel like guys are creating these monsters with monsters.
So nothing kills a relationship more than when you feel the lack of appreciation coming from the other side. That just kills a relationship on the spot. You know, because I've seen it that even though it's a lot, because this person is so appreciative, they're so thankful, they're so willing to reciprocate in other ways, that the person who's saving them they don't even mind it.
They don't.
Because the attitude, because what they see coming back from the other side. But here you are knee deep in it, trying to save this person, fix their problems, the family, the money, the this, the that, the house. And they have this attitude like, you're still lucky to be with me.
Right.
Because I've had surgery all over the place and I'm just carved out of, you know, I'm Pinocchio. Right. I went to the surgeon, they carved me out of wood, and this is what you get, you know? Right. And so you have to be careful with that. Now, the other tendency that people bring with them, notice the topic is avoid creating your own monsters, because sometimes it's what your tendency causes you to do that brings on the situations wherever you go. Call it call it the DR, call it Medellín, call it anywhere. You have this tendency. Here's the next one we wanted to talk about. Separation of cultures. Listen, and we're going to use Americans as an example. They're, you know, we deal with all cultures, you know, European, Canadian, but, you know, we're talking about the US because, you know, that is the predominating demographic of foreigners here, okay? And we've had the opportunity to observe quite a bit of them closely over the years. So listen, when you come to the DR, and we touched on this point in the last recording, the last Wine Wednesdays, you are coming to a different country with their own culture, with their own customs that are very different from ours back in the US. For instance, in this culture, even though it's very patriarchal, you know, kind of like the man is the man of the house, you know, the head of the house type of thing. And even though the Dominican Republic, the newer generations are, you know, they've advanced, you know, there's a lot of, you know, women are recognized, you know, as equals, in that a woman could do anything that a man can. They're very developed that way. Still, in the family unit, the woman takes care of the man and of the house. You could see professionals that if they, if they don't have housekeepers, of course, because in the Dominican Republic, hired help is so cheap that everybody has a housekeeper, even if they come in 1 or 2 times a week. It's just cheap here. So everybody has a housekeeper, cooks, cleans, whatever. But most of the people, that are in Omar's girlfriend's situation, they're the working class, they may not have a housekeeper. They will take care of it themselves. So they cook for the husband. They handle the house chores. Very rare to see a man doing house chores. Very rare.
Yeah.
And and in the more developed social, social settings, you do have men that will go to the supermarket and babysit the kids and stuff. But mostly in the country, the woman handles the housework and takes care of the kids. Okay. Now, Omar and I were talking yesterday. I swear I went to sleep cracking up with what you said yesterday. She's like, yeah, we don't want people coming here starting a feminist movement.
Well, let me clarify, because you're gonna get me in trouble with all of the women.
Let me tell you, after yesterday's conversation, I went to see. I'm like, Omar is so crazy.
I mean, what I see, and I've experienced this firsthand with my mother. I'm Panamanian through my father, so I have a lot of Panamanian relatives that are still in Panama, and my uncle, he's married, and my uncle's wife, she was cooking, she was cleaning, like she was literally doing everything in the house, cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, like everything in the house. And in addition to that, she was making sure, because at that time, my family was visiting them. So she's making sure that we're okay. And my mom, being, my mom is a chemist. She's a so-called, independent woman. Like she's a professional woman, a manager. So she's, she can take care of herself. And my mom is looking at all of this in disbelief. And so she's like, she tells his wife, you don't have to do all of that. And so me and my dad are like telling my mom, hey, be quiet. Like this is like she's not doing it as a sense of like feeling like her husband is gonna beat the hell out of her if she ain't doing it. She's doing it because she wants to do it, like literally wants to do it. And she doesn't. And so like, we're just trying to tell my mom, like, leave that alone. And I think that a lot of people, and it's not just it's other stuff, but like, so like, I know that when American women, especially professional American women who are used to taking care of themselves, when they see this, they're going to have a tendency to basically like, hey, you don't have to do that, and I'm just saying this, leave that alone, for me. Like, I don't like, I feel like that's imposing your ideals on another country's ideals. So I know I'm gonna get a lot of heat or slack from that, but that's just, I just feel like we do too much of that, like trying to impose American culture or any other cultures on other cultures, trying to change their way of life, are basically making something an issue that is not an issue in these particular countries.
Yeah, because the thing you have to realize, and it goes back to having a superior attitude, the thing you need to realize, it's a different culture. Doesn't make ours better. It just makes it different. And the thing is, if within their system of living, they are happy then what's the point of trying to introduce something different? Isn't the point of people, living a certain way, being happy? So if they're happy within their system of living, then let well enough alone. It's a different culture. And I'll tell you, I don't get offended at this. In the Dominican Republic, they're very high on the family. It's like they're into family. This is a family-oriented culture.
Yes, it
So
is.
for a woman my age to not be married and not have children, I don't care what level of success you reach, they're feeling sorry for you. Poor girl. She needs to go light a candle at church, see what God's gonna do for her. That's the mentality. And
that can be offensive. Like that could be somewhat offensive to, a professional professional American woman who, like she's thinking that she's like, it is so funny because like what you just mentioned there is like, you got the abuelitas or the tias looking crazy at these professional single American women with no kids. They're looking down on them, and at the same time, the professional single American woman is looking down on them because they're saying that they're oppressed or whatever.
What is that?
So it's so funny. That's a funny thing that you just mentioned.
And I actually have an aunt who said to me at one point, "Do something. Just have a kid. Don't even matter with who."
Wow.
At this point, it doesn't even matter. The focus is to have a child because you need a child for your old age. This is the mentality. You need a child. And who are you going to grow old with? This is the way the culture thinks in general.
Yeah.
So, and people ask you, you don't have kids? What happened? I mean, it's also a cultural tendency here for them to ask questions that, in the States or in a developed country, they would consider uncouth. Why don't you have kids? How much rent do you pay in that apartment? Like things that you would never do because you consider them socially incorrect. This is a very open culture. So they just ask those questions, not out of malice. It's just how it is here.
Well, I remember my own cousin in Panama, because at the time I wasn't in it. I wasn't in a relationship. She bust out and basically said, "Are you gay?" So, so I started laughing.
And what did you answer?
I told her I'm a lesbian. so, so but yeah, like yeah. And then I like to add, like it's funny because like the culture can mess men up as well, because me being a single guy, living on my own, I'm used to washing the dishes. I'm cooking for myself. I'm washing my own clothes or whatever. And then when you get a woman who is basically telling you, like if I wash dishes around my girlfriend will be like, what are you doing? And it's kind of like it's almost like a semi-scolding. If I try to fix my own plate, like if she's cooked and I try to fix my own plate, she's like, what are you doing? I was gonna fix your plate. Just let me know when you need your plate. Mm-hmm. And so even as a American, born and raised American guy, experiencing that can mess you up too. And you will have the tendency to I'm about to cuss. You will have the tendency to mess up your own program. Like you got a chick that's loving to serve you, and you'll be the one to say, you don't have to do that. So you mess up your own shit because of how you're how because like the culture that we've grown up in the States, that's not only kind of, it's not only has affected women, it's also affected how men view relationships as well.
And this is what we want to get to. When you come to the DR, just come with the mindset that it's a different culture. It's not better or worse than ours. It's different than the culture that you come from. Okay. And the other thing is, you know, sometimes in an effort to become, you know, to mesh with the Dominican culture, make this home, because listen, when you come to a country, making it home is a process. You can't speed that along. You're just gonna live here. You're gonna go through the motions of doing what you have to do. And one fine day, when you least expect it, it's gonna feel like home. You're gonna travel somewhere and miss it. You're gonna be here sitting, drinking coffee, looking at the mountains, and you're just gonna get this feeling. This is home. But that is a natural process that takes time. A lot of people come here and in an effort to hurry things along, they're gonna wanna immerse themselves into the Dominican culture as if they were Dominican. I've met Americans that like, there's a phrase called aplatanado. It means plantains. I become a Dominican plantain. So in order to do that, they'll start trying to take on aspects of the culture that, you know, is not natural to them. Okay. Listen, I've been here almost 20 years already. Okay. You are not going to find wicker furniture in my house. You better forget it. Okay.
Right.
And when I'm home, you know, I'm going to listen to the music that I grew up with. Okay. I'm going to listen to the music that I grew up with. You know, I'm going to speak English. All right. I'm going to cook dishes that are, you know, common back home. Okay. This doesn't mean that I'm stuck back in the US. It just means that I'm, you know, living the way I was raised, you know, living the way that I'm accustomed to living, even in a foreign country. Of course, you want to get to know the culture, the food, the people, the music. You want to enjoy those things. But you don't have to become a Dominican in order to climatize to life here. Because there's gonna come a point when you're gonna find that it's too much and you're gonna start to feel homesick. You understand? So
yeah, it's a balance. You know, it's a balance. And you're never like I guess you don't want to necessarily impose your culture on the local culture, but at the same time, that's not saying that you just let go of, you know, everything that you like to do or that you're accustomed to. Yeah.
You have to coexist peacefully. You have to understand the Dominican culture with its differences from ours, but at the same time, it's okay to embrace the culture that you come from. That's okay. And here it's easy because there's so many expats, which is bringing me to the next monster you got to avoid creating. You know that here, there are a lot of expat communities in the different parts of the island. And places like Puerto Plata, Punta Cana, Samaná, those communities are pretty big. Okay, now they say birds of a feather flock together. So expats, as a way of, you know, making this more of a home, they tend to form their little groups. And this, you know, which is very helpful, by the way. It's very good to be able to count on other foreigners to help you, you know, get to know the ins and outs of daily life. They're going to tell you where to go shop, where the prices are better, the best clinics. They might even, if you make friends, they might even go with you, help you out. That's all very good. but be careful that you don't let the people pleasing take over. Now, because you're in a foreign country, now because you're part of this little group that's helping you settle in, you're gonna start following, you know, their preferences and their mentalities. You're gonna start doing the things that, you know, they're encouraging you to do instead of following your own inner voice, instead of following who you are.
Yeah, and those groups, sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, because like, you know, when I say like imposing your culture, and you know, when you get frustrated, you'll end up finding in these groups where the group, they're living here in the Dominican Republic or wherever, and then but they're also complaining about every little thing that's going on. And you don't want to have that. For me personally, you don't want to be around that energy. Like,
Yeah, you have to.
yeah. So it's just like, you know, because you'll have that one, two, or maybe the entire group or the majority of the group that all they're doing is complaining about what's wrong with the Dominican Republic. And so you want to avoid that.
Yeah, because, and here's the thing, you'll notice, and you probably came across this in your due diligence, that, you know, some of these expats have very strong opinions, you know,
Yeah.
and they want in their own way to become influencers. You understand? They have such strong opinions and such strong thoughts, and because they're the experts in living here, all of a sudden, if you have a mind of your own or your thought of your own, you know, this person is going to argue with. Have you ever been to one of those expat communities? You enter an opinion they don't agree with, they will fall on you like a ton of bricks now.
Yes, yes.
Whatever happened to people having their own individual views,
Right.
opinions, you know?
And if it is on one of those Facebook groups, you know, if your thought or, you know, opinion is totally off, they may try to boot you out of the group or whatever. So
I mean, it's
yeah,
ridiculous. It's almost
yeah,
bullying.
right,
It is almost to the point of bullying. They
right,
all band together. And so the newcomer or the person who is, you know, they feel this pressure to go along with whatever they're thinking or doing.
right.
Avoid that pitfall. Learn to stand on your own. And if you have to disagree with an entire community, but that's your opinion, do just that.
Yeah, I would say that the expat communities, whether it's, you know, on the ground, because I know there's people that have there may be like WhatsApp groups and even Facebook groups. Like I would just use that to, as far as like more or less logistical purposes, you know, just, you know, but I would try to go off. I would advise you to rely on your own experience, versus, because again, as we said in the last one Wednesday, these folks are typically not telling you the entire story, you know. So, you know, I would rely on my own personal experience and get the, I guess, the direct advice or the logistics. Like for instance, if you're looking for a hospital, you know, in the group you ask for recommendations about what hospital to go to or whatever in your area, or clinic to go to in your area. That's what I mean by getting that factual stuff, not the opinion-based stuff, but the factual stuff. And the opinion stuff should be based on your own, or majority, I don't even know how to say that word. It should be based off of your own personal experience for the most part.
And that's exactly what last week's Wine Wednesday was about. Okay.
Right.
You know, so you create a monster when you are a people pleaser. when you follow the crowd. You have to learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Even though you're in a foreign country, and it's always good to be part of the expat club because you have that support system, you have to, at the end of the day, be able to stand apart. If you don't agree with the direction they're taking, with the view that they have, you follow me? You have to be able to do that.
And I think that's where the balance kind of comes in, because like, I wouldn't tell you to necessarily isolate yourself from an expat community, but I would also tell you to kind of like, you know, have you a few go-to people, you know, but also be building up your local network as well, you know, but don't totally come here and just be hanging out, or you're just with expats all the time.
See, and that's one thing I wanted to say. I want to spin off a little bit, veer off a little bit. It's related to the subject we're talking about, but this is just a personal note, because you know that whenever we can, we like for people to do some introspection. And so we'll put food for thought out there. I've never liked the word convince. When you talk people into things, I've never liked that, because convincing someone is pretty much talking them into something that they had already decided was not for them. Okay. And as we talked about a little bit, we touched on this point in last week's Wine Wednesdays. The universe will send inspired thoughts when it's time for you to take a road, take a direction. You'll get a thought, and you will understand, even on a subconscious level, that you have to carry that out. And it's almost like you're on autopilot. You just start doing everything. And if I ask, well, why is this so important? I know I just have to do it, So you'll get an inspired thought. And at the moment, you think it's a great idea. Well, go with it. And then someone will come along and they will talk you out of the idea that you're intending to follow and steer you in a different direction. Well, now, in my opinion, according to my belief system, that is the person being taken off course of the direction the universe was guiding them toward. Okay, so I've never liked, convincing and talking into. I don't do that. I do not do that, because I don't want to interfere with the universal flow of a person's universal flow. I don't ever want to do that. So be very careful that you don't have the tendency of being talked into things, of people convincing you of doing something that you had initially decided not to do. As Nietzsche said, the initial reaction is usually the correct one, because that's your inner self. That's your subconscious telling you ain't for you. Okay. So be very, this is a personal note. Be very careful with that. Okay. Very careful. Make sure that the only voice you're listening to is your own. And if you quiet your mind enough, you'll know what you need to do. It's there. What is the next monster that we want to avoid creating based on our tendencies? People who come with a chip on their shoulder.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna let Omar talk about this.
I mean, it goes to the point about the like the women in the household, like people you gotta leave, like it's and I'll just go ahead and just because I can't say it any other way, non-PC, but like the racial tensions, racial tensions that are happening in your homeland, like, you know, Russell always says this. He talks about leaving the matrix, and so I take that as like, or what people tend to do is they're leaving their home country behind, going into a new country, but they're bringing in the baggage of their home country into the new country. And my opinion is leave that stuff back home. Like, you don't want to come to a new country, you know, wired up, coming over here like, you want to be a revolutionary. Like, come here, just, live. Like, that's the reason why you left. Like, the reason why you left the US is because you're trying to get away from all of the stuff that's going on over there. And the other thing that I would say, and it's going to happen naturally because there's so much stuff to do. I find that when people situate themselves overseas or start living in a new country or whatever, they don't look at as much TV because they're so busy with activities or whatever. But if you're that type of person who's always got to be watching CNN, Fox, MSNBC, or whatever news, that political stuff, my advice to you, and it's helped me. It's helped me. Like, stop watching the news. Stop watching the news. Your stress levels, your blood pressure is all gonna go down if you stop watching the news. And because, to be honest, and people are gonna probably disagree with me on this, but I think the news's job is to influence people to think in a certain way and behave in a certain way. And they do their job very, very well. And that's why, and it's funny because if you listen to all of these different people, like these successful people who are successful businessmen and who have done very, very well and are financially wealthy, one of the things or the tips that they always say is stop watching TV, stop watching the news, because they know that is a distraction. It's a mental drain. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. Like, when you come here, when you leave the country and move to the Dominican Republic or wherever you move, look at that as like a reset. Look at that as like a rebirth. That's your new life. And start off fresh. So that's what I have to say about that.
If you're gonna come to this country carrying all that baggage, you're ruining the experience. In fact, I've even seen people that will come to this country trying to see if they could see if there are, characteristics of their home country here.
Yeah.
They come in a defensive state of mind.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're looking for it, you're gonna find it, as they say.
You have to be careful with that. See, and I keep trying to tell people, please separate countries. I just had a conversation with someone. It's an investment group that they have investors that are coming to invest here. This man actually asked me the question, is it possible to go to a local bank in the US and move money from here? And I'm like, how is that even possible? It's different countries. You can't do that no matter what. But so everybody's always trying, they look at the DR and the US as a continuation. DR is a continuation, an extension of the US. No, it is not. And so you have to leave whatever frustration led you to leave your home country. You have to check it at the border when you cross that immigration at the airport. As Omar said, it's start fresh, a new perspective. That's why you came here. But if you're going to come here with that chip on your shoulder and saying, see, they're racist too, there's racism everywhere, the world's going, you have to be careful with that, because it is going to ruin your experience. Now, granted, if you've gone through a lot, if you've experienced disappointment in your, country of origin, it's hard. You're gonna come here and it's gonna take time before you can decompress from all that, but you have to try.
Right.
Because you're gonna end up ruining your experience here. You're not going to appreciate this country for what it has to offer. You're not going to allow this country to provide you with what you need, which is healing and a new beginning. You're closing that door. So I love that you said that, Omar, a new beginning, start fresh. That's why you came.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that's entertaining, retiring, or living outside of the US is basically that they want to have a fresh start. They want a new environment, new culture, and they want to let go. They want to let go and start fresh.
And I really, I want, first of all, I want to tell all my subscribers, I'm proud of all of you that are making this transition. I think it's very brave of you to choose to leave a country that you've been in all of your life. You've raised your kids, you were born there, you have had an entire life there. But now, for whatever reason, you're choosing to enter into a new horizon. That's a brave move. And I want to congratulate you for having the vision and for having the courage to take that step. One of the reasons that we started this YouTube channel is because we want to meet you halfway. We want to help you to make a smoother transition into your life here. You understand? Because at some point, we all had to do the same. And we want to make it a smoother transition for you. So please don't take these recordings to be a criticism at all. No, it's not. Omar and I have both shared, tendencies that we have that, have at some point interfered with, our life in our respective countries. After I became divorced and I realized that I had to some degree taken my ex-husband for granted, this helped me to be more appreciative of all of the people in my life that go the extra mile to be there for me, my employees, my friends, family. Because experiences are meant to make us grow and evolve and become a better version of ourselves. So this recording is not meant to beat you down or criticize you. It is meant to help you see yourself, put up a mirror to yourself, and see yourself as you are. So that if you do have a tendency that threatens, you're having a happy outcome in the DR, you can put the clamps on it. You can take steps to avoid that from happening. And listen, we all have tendencies. Man, if I started talking about mine, forget Wine Wednesdays, I need a bottle right here. I'm not even going, listen to me, I'm not even going to bother getting a glass. It's just bottoms up. But it's a work in progress. You live and learn. And every day I'm learning new things, and every day I'm understanding things better. And I don't mind sharing that with you, because we want you guys to do great and be happy. and come here and enjoy your life. And, you know, we want to share this with you. So we just wanted to, you know, bring to you some thoughts. And listen, guys, I'm going to tell you something right now. The human tendency is to justify itself. If you talk to people about divorce, a divorced person, first thing that's going to happen is that that person is going to give you the whole list of what got on their nerves from their ex-spouse. Now I'm sitting here waiting for them to now share what their part was in that whole mess, and I never hear it. They're always the victim. I encourage you to what's the word I'm looking for? I encourage you to dive into the honesty pool. It's not a pleasant swim. It's not a pleasant swim.
Take accountability, because a lot of the stuff that happens to us, especially overseas, you know, if we play back the downs and review the tape, you know, there's some stuff that we may have we should have done better, or that we shouldn't have done at all. You know, a lot of the times it's on us. It's just like, you know, as we were talking about in the beginning, with creating your monster, dealing with your relationship. At the end of the day, it's not your significant other's, you know, that it's not their fault, it's your fault, because you set the tone initially. And we gotta take the L and just learn from it, you know.
You do.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. And I have to say, you know, we become better people when we grow from our mistakes.
Yeah. When
we're able to see what we've done that could have been done different, that should be done different in the future. I got to tell you, it is like jumping light years in the evolutionary process. You become such a wiser, stronger version of yourself. So I encourage you to take a good, honest look. I got into this practice some time ago. You know, I'm very much into, you know, listening to life coaches and, you know, doing a lot of self-help. You always need to do that. And one of the things that I've learned is you become richer, not criticizing yourself, not being hard on yourself. That's not what we're talking about. It's learning. It's understanding that you have a tendency that can interfere with happy outcomes and dealing with it, making a conscientious effort to change it and to suppress it so that it doesn't come back and affect your life. So that is the whole point of these recordings. You know, and I'm going to say this. The one thing that we can control is ourselves, no matter where we are. It's never going to be the DR's fault. It's never going to be the US's fault. It's never going to be Medellin's fault. It's never the other person's fault. Guess what? It is, you are the responsible party, because how you react before a situation, what you allow other people to do, starts and ends with you. A person cannot take advantage of you. A person cannot make you feel bad about yourself without your permission and allowance. Think about that for a minute. A country, however many idiosyncrasies it has, cannot determine your outcome. You determine that. How you deal with things, how you approach life, the decisions that you make. So this video is about what Omar said: take accountability. Understand as Abraham Hicks says, you are the creator of your own reality. Anybody who's talking about external factors, look at what this, being here brought to me. Look at what the DR made happen. No, that doesn't exist. You are in control. It's all about how you handle it. So whenever you hit a wall, like Oprah says, stop yourself, stop the vehicle and start to try to understand why that happened and how that can be avoided. And if you get into that practice, I guarantee you good things will start happening to you and everything will start to flow. Okay? So we hope that this recording was beneficial to you. I want to thank Omar again for the gems of wisdom he brought to this recording. And we're so happy to be able to share this, spend this time with you. We're so happy to be able to, share with you the experiences that we have had, the knowledge that we have gained from the mistakes that we have made. Because, oh yes, we've made quite a bit over the years, actually. I actually have a journal. I do that,
Yeah, and to that end, we're just sharing our perspectives. We're not perfect. We make mistakes all the time. We make bad decisions, or all the time. It's just about accepting that it's on you, and just moving forward. So.
And I'll tell you, I would appreciate in the comment section, Wine Wednesdays, we're trying to create a community here. So if you have gems of wisdom, please share them with us. Let us know what your thoughts are, how you feel about the subject. If there's something you want to add, we welcome all points of view because we're all looking to learn. We're all looking to grow. Perhaps you're going to share something with us that's going to shed light onto a situation we need to deal with better. So I invite you to share with us in the comments, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking, when it comes to this topic and others? Give us advice, okay? Your advice, your point of view. So I want to, wish you all happy holidays, okay? I hope that you and yours are richly blessed by our Heavenly Father, all right? And we will be here next Wednesday because Omar's putting the clamps down. He's like, listen, we're doing this on Wednesdays. I was about to cancel this session. He's like, oh, no, you're not. We're doing this. But anyway, folks, many blessings. Omar, thank you so much again for coming. And you'll be here next week, right? You like it, don't you?
We'll see.
Yes, you do. I'm not doing this alone anymore, so it don't matter.
Oh, you see, so now she's developed a dependency.
That's right.
I'm
codependent, and I admit it. I'm gonna wear a t-shirt that's dependent on Omar.
All righty.
All right. Well, good night, folks, and see you next time. Okay.
All righty. Take care, guys.